The Five Nights at Freddy's timeline is pretty confusing. There are so many retcons, many ways the stories could go, countless types of animatronics, it's enough to make Michael Myers blush. And I wanted to try and make sense of it, but since this story is so convoluted and confusing, we're gonna have to do multiple different timelines. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, Miner here, and that's right, after months of teasing, we're finally doing our first timeline. Today we're only focusing on the original timeline for Five Nights at Freddy's, including only the original 3 games. We're mainly doing this because when Scott went on an interview with Daco, he had this to say.
Was this meant to be the final game?
I think when I was making that game, in my mind, that was the end of a trilogy.
And since we're only including the original 3, we cannot include the Fun Times, the Pizzaplex, the novels, the books, or, thank God, Illusion Discs and Fazgoo. But this does also mean that we can't include the names of the characters, including William Afton, Michael Afton, Elizabeth, the Crying Child, all that. We can include characters like Jeremy Fitzgerald, Mike Schmidt, Fritz Smith, all those guys. Hey, something I forgot to mention, we are going to use this model of Michael Afton as Mike Schmidt's model. I just wanted to bring it up because I don't want you guys to get confused. We're mainly using this model because they are supposedly meant to be the same person. This does also mean we can't include the names of the missing children, but we don't really need to know those anyway, so I really don't mind. This video took us a little while to get out because we had to go back and replay the games and revise and edit the script, which I will be reading off of as we go along. We had to overthink every little detail, do the math, crunch the numbers, and come up with a lot of random stuff that we can use to fill in the gaps. We wanted to try and make the story make sense. One last thing before we actually officially get started. This is my timeline that I came up with, but it is based off of everything before Five Nights at Freddy's 4, including theories and the games themselves. You know, back whenever the story was a lot simpler. I'm bringing this up because I don't want people who have played the modern games to get confused whenever they hear me leave something out. But yeah, guys, I'm done wasting you guys' time. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Sit back, relax, get your snacks ready. Let's get right into it. This story starts all the way back in the early 70s in Hurricane, Utah with a restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner. We know this because the first game takes place in 1993. I'll explain how we know later. And the phone guy had this to say.
If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
So if we take 1993 and go back 20 years, you'll get 1973. Therefore, the first location was around in 1973. In the other timelines, the owners are known as William Afton and Henry Emily, but we can't include those names, so we really don't have a name for the owner. Either way, somebody opened up a restaurant with the intention of entertaining people and making a profit. He also had another motive, but we'll get to that later. It was one of those Chuck E. Cheese style places, you know, with creepy mascots that gave people nightmares and pizza that tastes like cardboard. I've been to a Chuck E. Cheese once in my life. Are they still like that? But there was something about these animatronics that were special. They were able to perform on stage and interact with kids all at the same time. Now, the animatronic itself had nothing to do with this, but the suit they were wearing did. They were called spring lock suits. They basically had the ability to be turned from an animatronic to a suit, allowing someone to fit inside and maintain the illusion of the animatronics getting off of the stage and interacting with the kids. I go into more detail about this in our video about spring lock failures. That video will be linked in the video's description if you want to go check it out, but just know I have quite a few issues with this. Here's a small recap on spring lock failures. A spring lock failure occurs whenever the spring locks that are holding back the animatronic parts are faulty and they push the spring lock back into position, pushing the animatronic back into position. With enough force to, how do I put this lightly, brutally murder you. Apparently there was one that we didn't get a chance to see, and that resulted in the Fredbear's location as well as the suits themselves being completely shut down for good. Also, for some reason, they allowed them to still be used in the next location, but they eventually learned how dangerous they are. And they eventually went full animatronic. In my opinion, I feel like they should have just went full mascot, but whatever. There were also reports of a really creepy, mysterious figure walking around wearing one of the purple suits that all the staff was required to wear. If you're an OG FNAF fan, you know exactly who that guy is. They also kept all the old suits in the back room, but we'll get to both of those later. The name of this location was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. and there were 4 main animatronics. Their names were Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Now I want you to keep in mind, the models that are on the screen are not the models they used. While we don't know what they look like, some fans did take the withered animatronics and put them through Photoshop, making them look fixed, and say that this is most likely what they look like. So this is the design we're going to stick with for this segment. Pause here, let's actually talk about each animatronic real quick. First one was Freddy.
Well, let's meet the band. My name is Freddy, I'm the singer in the band. Got a hat and a big bow tie. Oh, I'm a big brown bear, but don't be scared. I'm a real fun-loving guy.
He's a tall brown bear who was the lead singer in the band. He wore a black hat and bow tie with 2 black buttons on his chest, and he also had a microphone in his hand. He's also often associated with this song from the opera Carmen. Bonnie was a similar design, only he was a purple bunny. Although they did later change that to blue.
Bonnie's my name, I'm hopping along with floppy ears and a cottontail. My guitar is blazing, this rabbit's hair raising. Just listen to me wail. Take it, Bonnie!
He also wore a red bow tie and played the guitar. Chica was the backup singer.
Hey, I'm Chica, the lady of the group. My singing is a treat.
So sweet!
But keep an eye on your pizza.
I'm a bird who likes to eat! Nom 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 nom!
She was a giant yellow chicken with an orange beak and big orange feet. She also wore a bib with a confetti pattern and the words, "Let's eat." She also had a plate in her hand with a cupcake on it. While we don't really know this dude's name, fans have started calling him Carl the Cupcake.
I'm a cupcake.
Which isn't a canon name. I like it anyway, so we're gonna call him that. Lastly is my favorite of these 4. We got Foxy.
He hangs out over in Pirate's Cove. Now you've met all the members of the band.
The tall fox with a pirate aesthetic, including an eye patch and a hook. He also had his own area in the pizzeria called Pirate's Cove, which was pretty much exactly what it sounded like. It was a small area filled with pirate props and pirate memorabilia and so much cool stuff, and the area was loved by everyone. Foxy was probably the most popular character at the time. He also really likes to sing this song right here. Take a listen. But I do want to say they did have a 5th member as well. His name was the Marionette, but we'll get to him later. In the mid-80s, roughly 1985, the pizzeria was a success. It kicked off quite well. There were games, pizza, parties, so much cool stuff. The whole place was thriving. Until one day, it happened. He appeared. There was a party going on. The animatronics were doing their usual thing, performing, giving out cake and pizza. Pretty normal day. But, the employees noticed that one kid was missing. They looked everywhere, couldn't find them. Until the next day, an employee went outside to take out trash. That's when they found the kid's body. It was a little girl. She had been and disposed of out back. They did check the cameras and found out that the girl was locked outside by a bunch of bullies, and the mysterious figure from before, he got to her. Now, I want you to keep in mind, guys, this was in the 80s. Camera and mic quality probably wasn't the best. So likely they didn't see his face, but they did give him a nickname. Since he was wearing the purple uniform, they decided to call him the Purple Guy. Not the most creative name out there, but whatever. Due to this, the place was being investigated by police, and for some reason they didn't seem to, think, hey, maybe we should close down the pizzeria while we're investigating it. Nope, keep it open. Yeah, something tells me these cops aren't too smart. Whatever gave you that idea? It was also at this point when the employees noticed that the marionette animatronics started acting strange. Okay, now we can finally address the skinny, mask-wearing elephant in the room. The marionette, aka the puppet. It was a tall, lanky, entity-like thing with long, skinny limbs and a slender figure. It also had black stripes down its arms and legs and 3 buttons down its torso. While we don't get a chance to get a look at its face underneath the mask, it doesn't have any features in there aside from those glowing eyes it sometimes has, so we'll say for now that it doesn't have a face, but it does wear that mask, which is uber creepy. This mask has red lipstick and rosy red cheeks. It also has 3 fingers, which just further proves the creepiness because these look more like cables, if we're being completely real here. But what I say is the weirdest thing about this guy is that he wasn't intended to move. You know what I mean, guys? He was actually more intended to stay put and be controlled with strings. The only part of him that actually had robotics in him was his head because he was meant to be a security system to protect children. Now, they didn't say this directly in the game. They did say that he did start moving around and thinking, but we'll get to that in a second. But I'm only saying this because Puppet, which by the way is the name we will be referring to him as from now on. The puppet started to malfunction and they noticed these weird things about him, about it being able to move and think on its own.
I'll be honest, I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking, and it can go anywhere.
They also noticed that it had like purple lines down its cheeks that looked a little bit like tears. They didn't really think anything of it, but I think we know better. It was also at this point right here where they realize a bunch of weird things happening, and it's also here where I need to give you guys a little warning. You might want to, if you have a weak stomach, you might want to skip to this time code right here. Trust me when I tell you this. If you have a weak stomach, you don't want to hear this. The guy in the purple suit has been popping up in the security cameras a lot more often, and the suit in the back that nobody should be touching has noticeably been moved. People also started to notice that the animatronics started glitching a lot more. But before that, 5 kids went missing. Also, patrons started noticing what appears to be like red and green fluid flowing from the mouths and eyes of the animatronics. Also, apparently every time the animatronics move, they made like bone crunching noises. And they also reported that they smelled horrible. We already know what all this means, but unfortunately I can't say due to YouTube. Sorry guys. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, for some reason the police decided to do nothing about it. They did arrest the owner of the establishment, but he was let go due to lack of evidence. I mean, my dude, the animatronics are literally a dead giveaway. Pun entirely intended. Either way, the restaurant was eventually shut down and, quote unquote, left to rot.
That old restaurant was kind of left to rot for quite a while.
But it wouldn't be shut down for very long, as a few years later, in 1987, a new location opened, known as the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Also, apparently the older animatronics were scrapped and were going to be, fixed for this new place, but they were seen as too scary for kids. So they made new versions of them and called them the toy animatronics. These designs were meant to be more kid-friendly, but honestly, if you ask me, I'd say kid-friendly is a little bit debatable for Toy Chica, but whatever. These new animatronics had this new type of technology that we'll actually get into later, because I want to talk about Toy Foxy for a minute. They kind of screwed him over a little bit. I mean, just take a look at the original Foxy they used. Like, this swashbuckling pirate was replaced with this colorful... What the hell is this thing?
Bruh.
I mean, they completely removed the pirate aesthetic. That was what made him so awesome. He's now completely colorful. He doesn't even have his hook anymore. They nerfed him. Some fans in the real world have started calling him Funtime Foxy because of the similar design to Funtime Foxy from Sister Location. But again, we're not including that game, so we can't use that name. Ooh, nice rhyme. They also made him a girl for some reason, which I don't have an issue with, really. Honestly, I feel like we do need more female characters. There was also a huge debate about it, talking about whether or not they were male or female, which they did confirm they're in fact female, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. And here's another thing they nerfed. It went from Pirate's Cove to Kid's Cove. Dude. Apparently she was put there to entertain the children, but that wasn't really the best idea on their part.
Kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. Staff literally had to put Foxy back together at the end of every shift. Eventually they just stopped trying and left him in some kind of take apart, put back together attraction. Now he's just a mess of parts. I think the employees refer to him as just the main role.
I feel so bad for her. Like, they just left her like that, didn't even try to fix her. And they let the kids take her apart and put her back together? Who would let their kids go to this place? Either way, this resulted in the Mangle, a jumbled up and twisted mess of animatronic parts. They do sometimes try and fix her, but she was just kind of left like this. Now, the company was concerned that somebody might try and break in and steal something, or worse, the purple guy might come back. Now, do you remember that technology I talked about briefly earlier? This new technology allows them to detect criminals from up to a mile away.
They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility, they even let them walk around during the day. They're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
Pretty much what they do is they scan the guests and they confirm whether or not they are dangerous. They also needed a night guard to make sure the animatronics stayed in working condition. Multiple guards came and went, and they even reported that the animatronics started glitching out and tried to stuff them into suits.
Something about the robot seeing you as an endoskeleton without its costume on and wanting to stuff you into a suit. If they happen to see you after hours, probably won't recognize you as a person. They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. They'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit.
But eventually, in November of 1987, a man by the name of Jeremy Fitzgerald took the job. Jeremy wasn't living his best life. He was young and needed money. While we don't know much about him, we can say that he either didn't hear about the Fazbear's incident, or just straight up didn't care. Because, hey, money and free pizza? Don't mind if I do. When he took the job, he was told to just sit in a room, watch the cameras, make sure nobody breaks in and steals anything, make sure the animatronics don't get broken, and that's it. It sounds pretty easy, right? That's why you're wrong. They warned him about the previous night guard's warnings and told him the risks of what could potentially happen if he got shoved into one of those suits.
That wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcibly pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death. The only parts of you that would likely see the light of day again would be your eyeballs and teeth that pop out the front of the mask.
Because of this, they gave him a few options. The first one is regarding the puppet. And yes, for some reason they kept that thing around. They noticed that it tends to like being in areas where there's a lot of people and a lot of music. So what they did was they took a music box and put it near the puppet's box and allowed it to be wound up remotely from the security office.
So when it gets quiet, they think they're in the wrong room. Then they go try to find where the people are, and in this case, that's your office. There's a music box over by the prize counter, and it's rigged to be wound up remotely.
And I know nobody asked, but it's pretty niche, so I'm going to answer anyway. The name of the song that they used was called My Grandfather's Clock. Creepy. I know. As for the others, they actually had a simpler solution. Once they realized that the animatronics had this tendency, they actually took an empty Freddy Fazbear head and gave it to him. They told him that when an animatronic comes in, to just pop the mask back on, and they'll leave, completely ignoring him. Well, he could have just had the mask on all night. He had asthma, so he couldn't. That isn't actually canon. It was made by fans, but I thought it would be a fun addition. Plus, I had asthma as a kid, so I can kind of relate. So aside from that, it should be problem solved. Not really, if we're being honest. There was one animatronic that was an exception, not including the puppet, and that was Foxy. You see, Foxy was different. He could see right through the mask. While we don't know why, Phone Guy suggested to just do a factory reset, which is pretty much where if you see him, just flash your light at him.
If for some reason he activates during the night, just flash your light at him from time to time.
I'd say probably the most difficult thing to explain here is why we have a limited battery life there when they know we would have to do this. I'd say the best idea I have for this is game design. Like, if we had unlimited battery, the game would be way too easy to beat. But I have to come up with an actual answer, so I have to go with that it's the same reason why Jeremy took the job to begin with. He was young and likely didn't care, and most likely forgot to bring batteries. Who knows? You guys let me know what you guys think. But honestly, if you ask me, I think that he should have thought about it just a little bit longer, because he forgot about Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy really likes batteries, and I mean really likes batteries. Like, it's concerning how much he likes them. Don't worry about him, guys. He's in rehab for it. He's about 2 weeks clean. What happens in the actual game isn't actually important, so we're just gonna skip through most of that. And because we talk about it, it's just gonna make this video long and boring, and we don't want to go through with that. I mean, we're already on page 6 of the script. At the end of this week, Jeremy was moved to the day shift, and he started noticing that the animatronics started glitching out, like the ones before them. And some employees noticed that the suit from before has once again been moved. He's back. He must have just ignored it because he later noticed that Mangle had been taken apart again. So he went to go fix her, and I think you guys know what happens. His body was found by the now shut down animatronic with a large portion of his brain removed. He was sent to the hospital for this, and from what we know in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, he most likely survived. Oddly enough, this is actually based in reality with a man named Phineas Gage, who is known for the most famous accidental lobotomy. That's another thing we went in depth in another video, which we will also leave linked in the description. Now, it's likely that Jeremy fell into a coma, but when he eventually woke up, he was not happy. He most likely sued the place, causing the entire restaurant to get shut down, and the event being known as the Bite of 87. The toy animatronics were eventually scrapped, and the older animatronics, which are now being referred to as the withered ones, are being put into storage to be used for a much smaller project in the future. At this point, the restaurant stayed dormant for many years until it eventually reopened, and this building was not doing well. It wasn't being taken care of properly, the animatronics were in disrepair, the overall aesthetic was just off, the budget was smaller, the whole building was smaller, and if we're going off of what the Chip Tide said in his video about the building itself, it most likely took place in a mall. Not to mention the fact that the smells in the place kept getting worse, and newspapers kept saying that the building was going to be closed by year's end. The missing kids from before never got found, and the restaurant owner actually got arrested again, but got, let out due to lack of evidence again. Bruh, the animatronics are literally leaking and smell like death. Look guys, I'm no detective, but in my opinion, that animatronics leaking and smelling like dead bodies, I think that's way more than enough evidence to get a warrant to have these guys taken and put this dude in jail. But apparently the cops in this universe are just plain stupid. Eventually, the building was shut down due to health issues, finally, and rumors started to spread and stir up about the events that happened here. The building was not being taken care of. It presumably kept getting broken into, and people started talking about weird things and weird noises that they keep hearing. And honestly, if you ask me, they could have just, demolished the building and been done with it, but what the owners decided to do was, you guessed it, hire another night guard. Now this is when the first game comes in. When does this take place? Well, I rewatched one of MatPat's videos, and he claimed that it took place in the early 2000s. But that video was released around the time Security Breach was released, so we can't really include that. But we can figure it out for ourselves. All we need to do is just look at the paycheck. This is something that literally everybody has done. If you take the amount you earn at the end of the week, which is 120 bucks, and do the math, calculate it between like how much money you make an hour, you can actually find out that it actually matches perfectly with the minimum wage between 1990 to 1996. Especially if you compare the events of this game with a real life event that happened in 1993. It was at a Chuck E. Cheese in Aurora, Colorado, when 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap was laid off and snuck back in later to take out multiple people and fill a bag with $1,600 arcade tokens and keychains. This likely inspired this game and is actually what MatPat used in his first FNAF theory. But we can actually check our math by using the paycheck in the second game and find out that the $100 an hour matches up with the 1987 minimum wage. Therefore, we can assume that this game takes place in 1993. In November of that year, a man named Michael Schmidt started looking into all the weird crap that has been going on. To put it lightly, Mike was an outcast. He didn't have many friends and lived by himself. Now, the movie did say that he had a sister, that he was taking care of her, and he was just looking for his brother who went missing years ago, but first off, as much as I love this movie, I don't consider it canon. Also, it was released in 2023, so we can't include it anyway. But much like Jeremy, he was young, probably mid-20s, and needed a job, okay? He needed money. And when he heard about what happened and all the crap that has been going on, he thought he'd kill two birds with one stone. He'd finally have a job, even if the pay sucks, and he'd be able to look into all the weird crap that has been going on. Again, like Jeremy, he was tasked with just sitting in a room, watch the cameras, and don't die. I also do want to bring up that he couldn't use the Freddy head in this one because they kind of used it to fix Bonnie. So they decided, hey, why don't we just give him a pair of heavy doors? You know what I mean? Doors that are running on a very crappy generator, by the way. Oddly enough, this is actually something that the phone guy proposed in the previous location.
You may have noticed there are no doors for you to close.
Honestly, the doors themselves do, you know, warrant their own video, like, because they've been a topic of debate for years. Also, you may notice that I have been letting you listen to Phone Guy's messages, but we haven't really talked about him. This is because he's a very mysterious character and is actually a character we went in depth on in our Phone Guy Who Is He video. Again, linked in the video's description. What is that, 3 times now? And no guys, that's not an excuse to get more views on those, I'm just reading that off the script. I just think it'd be a waste of time to talk about it again. I mean, we're already on the 8th page and we've been recording for an hour, so. But since he said he was going to take the role after Jeremy,
When the place eventually opens again, I'll probably take the night shift myself. I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact.
and the fact that at the end of FNAF 2 we see a pink slip with the name Fritz Smith on it. The modern theory is that that name is meant to be one for Michael Afton, but again, we can't use Michael Afton, so we will be referring to Phone Guy as Fritz for now. Believe it or not, the original version of the script actually had us calling him Scott, but we realized that would have made it really confusing, so we just decided not to. However, there is a character we will be referring to as Scott later, but we'll get to that then. I'm bringing this up because he's been around for a while, and he's been, you know, training people on how to use spring lock suits, how to use the doors, how to use everything, and even how to survive the animatronics. If you play the first game, then you know what happens.
I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
Now, my current theory is that this happened right before this restaurant closed down. But you guys can let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to bring up, you know, the stuff that happens in the actual game, but I feel like this time it's kind of warranted. Mike starts seeing weird hallucinations a couple nights into the job. If you have not played the original game, first off, what are you doing with your life? Go play it. You would not know that there are hallucinations in the game. Occasional flashes of the animatronic faces, "It's me" written everywhere, the crying children on the walls. Why are we seeing this? I think I have an answer for that. It's because of the fact that we know that Purple Guy was wearing the Spring Bonnie suit, or some sort of golden suit, meaning that the kids likely didn't see his face, so they don't know what he looks like. But they're attacking us because we're wearing the same clothes. But Mike also hallucinates an image of a version of Freddy that is slumped over and in a much lighter but also at the same time darker color. Now I hear you guys typing on your keyboard saying, Miner's talking about Golden Freddy when he ignored Withered Golden Freddy. Look guys, as much as I love Withered Golden Freddy's design, I personally don't consider it canon. I know it's the one that they use a lot, like in UCN, but first off, we're not including any game past 3. Even if we were, a lot of them still use the first game's design, especially in that secret Golden Freddy cutscene in UCN. While I do still believe Withered Golden Freddy was there, I do feel like that this Golden Freddy is the canon Golden Freddy, and is likely the most pissed spirit out of all of them. So after a whole week of dodging death, Mike decided to go in for another shift, because why not? If it was me, as soon as day 3 is rolling around, sorry bro, I quit. But then he heard a loud banging noise. Now this part's going to be pretty similar to the books rather than the game, specifically the ending of Silver Eyes. That's not intentional guys, we can't use anything past FNAF 3, but Yeah, I feel like that this makes sense because it would explain the 30-year gap if we have Mike witness it. Mike runs in to see a bunch of animatronic parts on the floor and oil everywhere. The animatronics have been completely destroyed, and he hears someone rummaging in the back. Now, what a normal human being would do is to call the cops. I mean, somebody just broke in and broke all the animatronics and is most likely stealing something. But no, what he actually does is go to check to see who it was. Now, there was a debate at the time on whether or not he was an employee or the owner. I'm gonna go with the owner, but you guys can let me know what you think he was at the time. But he is in shock whenever he sees the owner in the back filling a bag with money and Fazbear keychains, wearing the same purple uniform and a sick, twisted, sinister smile. Now, I don't know if he was like this the entire time. He might have just developed it over time, but whatever. But this was similar to the Chuck E. Cheese 1993 Nathan Dunlap incident that inspired this game. Now, I'd imagine that this whole event took place between the dismantling of the animatronics and the spring locking. But I'd imagine that when Mike goes to confront him, the purple guy attacks him. But the attack doesn't last long. Once the kids realize who this is, they start to appear, and he starts seeing the same hallucinations Mike did. The animatronic faces, the "it's me" messages, the golden bear. He also starts seeing a group of 5 figures, each one representing each victim. Glowing white figures with black and white eyes and lines of tears staining their faces. I also can kind of imagine that Mike probably didn't see them, and this is because of the fact that they found their target after God knows how long and have no reason to attack him. No, this can't be. You're all dead. What are you doing? You don't see them? They're right there. Yeah, I think we all know what's about to happen. The ghosts chase him to the back room, and he boards them up to buy him enough time to get into the nearby spring lock suit. Now, I see 2 scenarios here. One where he was horrified and didn't notice the leaky roof because of how old the building was and the fact that it had been raining, or that he did notice it and just didn't care. In fact, he was wanting it to happen because he knows what was going to happen next. He eventually gets the suit on and they walk in. Now, if you're going with scenario A, he was likely terrified and he started laughing, thinking, I got the upper hand, and then suddenly the spring locks go off and he's in excruciating agony. But if you're going with the other one, he's saying things like, "You stupid kids, do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" or "I'll see you in hell," or even the iconic "I always come back." Now, obviously it was the first one, but I have a good feeling that when we're doing the other FNAF timelines, the other one might appear. So yeah, he gets the suit on, he starts laughing, thinking, I've got the upper hand. And then suddenly, yeah, I think you know what happens. Now, there's a debate going around on whether or not the cops found his body, but it's most likely that they didn't, and this is the reason why. I think Mike saw this and ended up boarding up the room. I mainly say this because of the fact that we never actually see him stop moving there before the cutscene ends. Now, this could just be the endoskeleton malfunctioning, but you gotta keep in mind that there are literal ghosts running around. Maybe Mike just didn't want to risk it, you know what I mean? After this, Mike was traumatized, but at least it was finally over. Or was it? Fast forward 30 years later in November of 2023. Don't ask why it's always November. Triple N doesn't make it any better. Bruh. I just figured since, the first 2 games took place in November, it'd be easier to make it all November. All Fazbear locations have been shut down for good until one day somebody bought the rights to the Fazbear franchise. The new owners were planning on opening a new location called Fazbear's Frights. It was going to be a museum that showed the history of Fazbear Entertainment, from all the locations, the murders, everything. And they were looking for props, like authentic props from back then. Mike, now in his 50s, noticed this and noticed that they were once again looking for a security guard. He remembers the last thing he saw when he saw the purple guy getting spring locked and realized that he didn't see him die. He saw him just laying there twitching. He doubted it, but he never ruled out the possibility that he could have somehow survived. He took the job, and I think you guys already know the drill by now. Sit in a room, Watch the cameras. Don't freaking die. First night was pretty easy. He met this really cool dude named Scott who helped him out. You may notice I just called him Scott. We know him as the phone dude. Yeah, you see that's who I was talking about earlier. I mainly am calling him this because they were both voiced by Scott Cawthon. I thought it'd be, a fun little Easter egg. On the second night, he told Mike that they found some really cool things, such as old props and training tapes and so much other cool stuff, and Mike had them playing throughout the night, but that's not what's important here. What is important is that they found one. A real animatronic from all the way back then. It was an old spring lock suit that looked strange. It looked demonic and had some red stuff in it. Nobody noticed though, even though it's pretty freaking obvious. Fazbear Entertainment pisses me off. They put him on display and decided to name him Springtrap. They called him this because he was an old spring lock suit, and they were known for being able to trap people. Springtrap. Get it? I am so sorry. Bruh. They had him roaming the building, thinking it would be fine. But Mike noticed right away. He recognized the suit, seeing it shamble around, and he was unsure if it was him until it spoke. What? What's this? You. The voice was so disturbing. It was very grovelly and robotic. Now keep in mind guys, he doesn't actually speak in the game, but I'd imagine he did speak and taunt Mike. Also, I just wanted an excuse to say, I always come back. He remembered what Scott told him and decided to use an old BB audio clip.
Hello?
And Springtrap decided to follow it like a complete dummy. This gave him just enough time to reboot all the systems, but from this point on it gets boring, so I'm just going to skip all that. Over the next few days, he starts seeing hallucinations of the animatronics, but they were more burnt, more withered and decayed. Through the random secret minigames you can find, we can assume that he tried to reason with the ghosts and help them move on. After that, all that was left was Springtrap. Mike would finally end this. Sunday, the last day of the week, he would finally put an end to these kids' suffering once and for all. Imagine how cool it would be to see a fight break out. Like,
look at me. Look at what I've become. Look at what you made me.
I swear, Springtrap, I will burn this place to the ground and destroy you once and for all.
You can't. Can't you see, Michael? I am immortal.
I'll find a way.
You can try, but I'll be back. I always come back.
As the fight continues, a fire starts. Only one will come out alive. Mike emerges victorious. Purple Guy lets out one final, I always come back. Now, some say that both of them die here, but I think it'd be more appropriate to have Mike still alive. Look, this video took me months to make, okay? According to the newspaper at the end, Mike most likely blames the fire on faulty wiring, completely clearing his name and ending Purple Guy for good. Or so we thought. Whew. That's it guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, and also ring the bell if you guys want to. Shout out to all the awesome Patreon members right here on this list. If you want to see your name on this list, go join the Patreon, linked in the video's description. Also, while you're down there, come chat with us on the Discord server, also linked in the video's description. Remember, keep it positive over there. Also, don't forget to go subscribe to our personal YouTube channels. We'll leave them also linked down there. Honestly, we have some really good stuff cooking up over there. Also, be sure to go follow us on Twitter and Instagram while you're down there and tag us in a post with your timeline suggestion. We're thinking about maybe doing Sweet Tooth next. Also, if you made it to the end, be sure to comment what your favorite Five Nights at Freddy's character is. You guys already know mine is Scrap Baby. But yeah, if you guys want to watch some more videos, there should be some popping up on your screen as I talk. God bless every single one of you guys. You guys are awesome. And remember, it's not a habit, it's a lifestyle. Peace.